A good Zevach, everyone. As you could see, I'm a bit hampered. If you go to zoomdaf.buzz, Barry is giving the share instead of me. So you could, but if you stay here, I'm giving the share. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro.
Amen.
We're sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Zev ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam bas God, Yosef ben Tzia ben Yaakov Zev, and for for a great shidduch, for Chayat Tzivya bas Shoshana Gittel. We're sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Chaim and Abba, Esther bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKohen, and Lefur Shalema for Liba Basanya. We're sponsored by A.B. Spry. We're sponsored for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Bela Shendel Rivka. We're sponsored by Berish Kesseman, Lefur Shalema for Shoshana Basadina, and by Mark Frankel, Eli Nishmas, his father, Yisrael Tzvi ben Chaim Yeshua Falek. We learn to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Dibar Tabam. Lastly, Snachas Ruach Liyitzreinu. We are holding
Shleima Leah Bas Edelminka, please.
the first Shalema for Edelbas Leah Bas Edelminka.
And for your Refuah Shalema, Rabbi.
Amen.
Refuah Shalema to the Rav.
Amen. So now we're holding by Ketores, the bottom line of Daf Yud Aleph and Beis. Bottom line, Daf Yud Aleph and Beis. The Gemara asks, you said that Bein Harboyim means between the two Erevs, between last night and tonight. It means the whole day. So Ketores Tichsev Bein Harboyim Achinami Dekuli Yoyim Akash. Well, the afternoon Ketores be kosher the whole day. Says the Gemara Shani Ketores is different. The Iskish L'Neirus. It's juxtaposed to the Menorah, just like the Menorah has to be in the evening. So the Ketores has to be in the evening. Says the Gemara, but if you're telling me that where it says Erev, it's different, then how could you say that Ben Beseira says that the whole day is kosher for the Pesach? By the Pesach, it also says Erev. Hasam Nami Ksiv Sham Tizbach as a Pesach for Erev. Says the Gemara, there it says it to tell us that if you do it the Pesach late in the day, it's done even after the Tamid. That's coming to tell us that it's the latest thing. The Tanya Yuchar Dover Shenema by Be'erev Bein Harboyim. Let the Pesach, which says both Erev and Bein Harboyim, be later. The Dover Shenema by Ela Bein Harboyim will that to the Tamid, which only says Bein Harboyim. So now the Gemara says that doesn't sound reasonable. Is it reasonable that it can be done in the morning, but if it's done later, it has to be the latest? Umi Kamide, is there anything? If you do it in the morning, Amrit Zimnehu, it's its proper time. But if you're doing it later, Amrit Yuchar Davar, it should be the latest? Says the Gemara, that's not surprising. We have such a thing. For example, the Musaf is done before the mincha. But once it's the zman of mincha, you daven mincha first and then musaf. Says the Amar Rabbi Yochanan halacha, if it already is time for mincha, mispal shel mincha v'achar mispal shel musafin. So you see, originally musaf is supposed to be earlier, but if you wait longer, then you daven mincha first and then musaf. Says the Gemara, so then, if you're telling me that we learn out Ketairis from the Menorah, that it's in the afternoon, and we learn out by the Menorah, where it says, Me'erev ad boker, so then why does it say Beino Habayim by Ketairis and Menorah? Or Beino Habayim nechsiv gabi Ketairis v'neiris lamali? Why does it say it? And furthermore, your whole idea that according to Ben Beseira, the Pesach is kosher even in the morning of Erev Pesach, that can't be. You see, Rabbi Yeshua asked that according to Ben Beseira, it says that the Korban Pesach, if it's done Shaloi Lishma in the morning of the 14th, it's possible. So Rabbi Yeshua asked, why is it any different than if it's done on the 13th? On the 13th, if you do it Shaloi Lishma, it's kosher as a shlamim. The morning of the 14th should be same as the 13th. So Rebbe answers on behalf of Ben Beseira. Heishiv Rebbe, Tachas Ben Beseira. Rebbe answers on behalf of Ben Beseira, L'divrei Rabbi Yeshua, to answer Rabbi Yeshua's question. Loi, Im Amarta B'Shloisha Asa, the 13th, it's not kosher, the Pesach, any time during the 13th. She'ein miksasei right. There's no time on the 13th where the Korban Pesach is kosher. Timer ba'arba aser. On the other hand, the 14th, shemiksasei right, since part of that day is kosher for the Korban Pesach after Chatzais. The whole day, even in the morning, if you do it Shaloi Lishma, it's possible. But if it's true that Ben Beseira holds that the Korban Pesach is kosher the whole day, the Meisa Kula Rayu, the whole day is kosher. So the Gemara says, you're right. Scrap that. Scrap that. Elamar Rabbi Yochanan, Paisalaya Ben Beseira bePesach sheshachtu ba'arba asa shachris. Ben Beseira holds that regardless when you shecht the Korban Pesach, regardless what you have in mind when you shecht the Korban Pesach on the morning of the 14th, Bein Lishmai, whether you did it for the sake of the mitzvah of Pesach, Bein Shaloi Lishmai, you did it Shaloi Lishmai, it's possible. Lishmai, it's possible because it's not the Zman. The Zman is Bein Rabbayim in the afternoon. Shaloi Lishmai is possible because since part of the day is the time for the Shechita, the whole day Shaloi Lishmai is possible. So now the Gemara asks a very interesting question. This is an insightful question. The Gemara says, according to Ben Beseira, when could you separate a Korban Pesach and not have it pass through a period of rejection? Let's say Dr. Block separates a Korban Pesach the morning of Erev Yom Tov. According to Ben Beseira, at that moment, it's not fit for anything. It's not fit Lishmai, and it's not fit Shaloi Lishmai. If it's not fit for anything, it should be rejected. What? So the Gemara will say that Rabbi Yochanan holds that Bali Chaim Nidachin, that even living animals can be rejected. A very good point. Barish brings up a good point. The Gemara is going to talk about that. It says the Gemara, Megadif Ba. Megadif Ba is a language of strong objection. Strong objections. It literally means he blasphemes, but it means strong objection. Megadif Ba Rabbi Yavo. Im Kain Pesach Kosher Leben Meseira Heich Mishkachsa. When could Dr. Black separate and sanctify a Pesach? If he sanctifies it on the morning of Erev Pesach, as soon as he sanctifies it, at that moment it's not fit for anything. Can't be brought Lishma because it's not Zman till the afternoon. And it can't be brought Shaloi Lishma because he holds that on the day it can't be brought Shaloi Lishma. So it's rejected. So what are you going to say that Dr. Black separated the day before? But then, Nira v'nitcho, it becomes fit on the 13th because then you can bring it as a shlomim. But in the morning it won't be fit. So Rabbi Yavo says, okay, no problem. It must be that they separated it in the afternoon. You first separate it on the afternoon of Pesach when it's fit. Alam Rabbi Yavo teilach chatzais. Abaye says, no, there's another suggestion. Afilu teima mitzafra, even if Dr. Black was makdashin in the morning, since it's fit in the afternoon, ein l'mechusa zman l'bay bayayim. If it's fit for some time that day, it's not considered mechusa zman. It's not considered deficient. Rav Papa says, I'll tell you what, Dr. Black could have even separated it the night before, on B'dikah night. Because we have a klal that laila lav mechus zman. Somebody is going to be fit the next day. In the night, it's already not considered deficient. So Rapapa amafilu tema me'urta, because laila ain't mechus zman. How do we know that night is not considered deficient? The Tani de Bei Rabbi Yishmael. It's really amazing. This happened by both drushes. I started to learn, and mamish the schus of the olam, my voice should get weaker, but my voice gets stronger because of the schus of the olam. The Tani de Bei Rabbi Yishmael. We know that a animal is not fit for a carbon until it's 8 days old. Now we also know that to determine Meiser Behema, we pass the animals through the corral one at a time, and the 10th animal is Meiser Behema. Let's say an animal on Monday is 7 days old. So it's not going to be fit until Tuesday when it's 8 days old. The din is you could pass it through the corral on the night after the 7th day. Now, the night it's not fit, you can't do a carbon in the night, so you should have to wait until the next day. But the halacha is Leil Shmini Nichnas Ladir is Aser. That you could put it through the corral on the night going into the 8th day. Ukidurebi Aftariki, The Rebbe after Riki Rami, he asks a contradiction. Ksiva yeshivas yamim tachas imay. An animal has to be 7 days by the mother. It's not fit for 7 days. Mashma halayla chazi. The 8th day it is. The night into the 8th it is fit because it only says 7 days. Yet another pasuk says Ksiva miyoyim hashmini va'ala. From the 8th day on, Yeratz, it should be accepted as a carbon. So one pasuk implies that the night going into the 8th is good, and one implies it's not. Halayla loy chazi, because it says Miyayim Hashmini. Haketzad. Laila lekedusha. After 7 days, the night of the 8th, you could pass it through the corral. It can be counted. But v'yayim la'atzah, to actually offer it up as a carbon, you have to wait till the next day. I want to welcome in Shelley, Saba, Yaakov Warman, Yitzi Fuchs, Menachem Yemansky, Michal, Nachman Chapler, Barry Cement, Shimon Klein, Dr. Black, Yitzi Muller, Yisrael Fisher, Danny Vogel, Ben-Cian Cohn, Mark, Frankel, Dr. Guy, Irving Fishbaum, Moshe Lehman, Stephen Holtzman, Jonathan Gross. It's nice to have you, Jonathan. Gewaldig. Rabbi Kranz, Avram Rezepkowitz, Richard Rosenzweig, Elia Yaffe. You know you're on here? Yeah? Okay.
Because computer download software.
Okay. I want Olam to know Rebellia Yaffe is in 2 places. Unbelievable. You know, I saw you here, and I understood that listening to my Shabbos Shuvah, you're doing tshuva. I understood. I said I was happy already that my tshuva, my drush had an effect. Naftali Jablin, Daniel Rosenberg, Chaim Braun, Abe Arbach, Ilya Shutman, David Elfkat. Here in Shul we have Berish Kesserman, Michal Avram Chavin, Herschel, Halpert, Reuven Shanet, Rebellia Yaffe. So the Gemara now says, Berish brought this up, but the whole kasha only starts if you say it becomes rejected when it's alive. Amalei Rabbi Zera Rabbi Avo Lema Kasav Rabbi Yochanan Balei Chaim Nidachim. Can it be rejected while it's alive? A lot of things an animal cannot be when it's alive. For example, an animal is not Mekabel Tumah while it's alive. So I would think it's not rejected while it's alive. Says Gemara Malay in, yes. Rabbi Yochanan holds Balei Chaim on Nidachim. Dam Rabbi Yochanan Behema Shel Shnei Shotfim. What happens is Michal Avram and Herschel, they own an animal in partnership. Hiktish Chetzia. Herschel is makti. He was motivated by the Shabbos Shuvah Rasha, and he was maktish his half. Maktish half is nothing. You can't bring a half an animal. So then, v'chaz of a chetzia, he bought Michal Avram's half, v'iktisha, and he was makdish that half too. Now he thinks that he could bring it to the base of Mikdash. No way. Kedusha, it's sanctified. But v'eina kreva, because as soon as he was makdish the half, at that moment it's not fit to go on the Mizbech, it became rejected. So even when he buys the other half, it's too late. V'oisa Tmura, now it's both parts are holy, so it could make an exchange. But if you make an illegal exchange, the exchange also can't be offered on the Mizbeach. Now, from this, we learn out three things. Number one, you should go to a Shabbos Shuvah Drasha. No, that's not what we learn out. But you should. Shmami no tlas. We learn out three things. Shmami no balichayim nidachin. Because Herschel did it while it was alive. So you see Rabbi Yochanan holds that living things can be rejected. Vishmami no dichri me'ikara v'dichri. It doesn't have to be fit before it could be rejected. Because here it was rejected from the get-go, from the very beginning. As soon as it was makdish half, it became rejected. Vishmami no, this is another chiddush. And watch Mark's face. Blatant disappointment. I know. That's why I figured he blacked out his screen. You didn't want us to see how disappointed he was. Shmamina.
Rabbi, I'm sorry. I just had company that came that I can't. My son came before Yom Kippur to me. I'm gonna hit and miss now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you see, he offered to give share. Boy, are you lucky, Rabbi. So I didn't take him up on it.
It's Yossi. It's my oldest. It's my Bechor.
Enjoy.
I will.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
I'll let him listen to the show.
Shmamina, yesh tichui b'damim, that it could be rejected even if it's only kedushas damim. You know, there's two types of kedusha. When you makdish something for the mizbeach, and it's a tamim, it's unblemished, it gets kedushas haguf. But then it has to be royal mizbeach. Here Herschel was only makdish half an animal, and that's all he owned. Maybe if he owned the whole animal, we would say his pashtus, and the kedusha would spread through it, but he only owned half. So when he was makdish half of the animal, it wasn't fit for the mizbeach. Once it's not fit for the mizbeach, it only gets kedushas damim, that it's kaddish for its value. I might think kedushas damim is not rejected. So now the Gemara declares three shaylas. Amar Ula, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Let's say, okay, Mark, he's the troublemaker at hand. Right? Mark, sitting in his Baylor Kinwood flagship station. Let's say Mark eats chaylev. You know what? I want to give Mark a break. This is too devastating. Let's make it chatzkel. Achel chaylev. Chatzkel eats chaylev, which is an isikaris. He eats it b'shaygeg. So v'hifresh carbon, he separates the carbon. Then v'hemer das. Then he becomes an apostate. Now remember, we said an apostate doesn't bring a carbon, because only somebody that's shav miyadiyasai, who would hold back if he knew about it, brings a carbon. But when he becomes an apostate, he would do it even if he knows about it. So V'hemer does, and then v'chazabah, he came to my Shabbos Shuvah Drasha. Chatzkel was here, you didn't see him. Came to my Shabbos Shuvah Drasha. He did tshuva. The din is, he cannot use that carbon, because hoyel v'nitcha, since it was rejected when he became an apostate, when he became a renegade, yitcha, it's rejected permanently. Here's another case. Yitmanami, Amar Reb Yirmiyah, Amar Reb Yavo, Amar Reb Yochanan. Achal chaylev, if Chatzkel ate chaylev, v'hifresh carbon, v'nishtate, and then he became a shaita. He became insane. A person that's insane doesn't have to be, is part from a carbon. So when he becomes insane, his carbon becomes rejected. The chazav and ishtapa, and then he gets better. Hoyel v'nitcha yitcha. Since it was rejected, it was rejected. So the Gemara says, why do we have to say both cases? V'tzrichai. We need to say both cases. Di ashmina kamaisa, where he became an apostate. That's mishum du dochi nafshe b'yadayim, because he expressly rejected it by becoming an apostate. Aval hacha, but where he became insane, the memele it was rejected by itself. He didn't actively reject it, he just became insane. He lost his mind. I might say kiyashin dami, it's as if he was sleeping. He was temporarily unavailable. And if we would say the case of insanity, because that's, he can't reverse. So that's a bigger rejection. A renegade, at any moment he could be about tshuva. The yesh biyad al-hazer, a malay. I might think it's not a rejection. Tzricha, both are a rejection. So now the Gemara declares a third case. Third case. It's really so nice to see so many people. I apologize. It really bothers me that you can't hear me. Should be a rule against this for rabbis.
Rabbi, we hear you fine.
Thank you. That's very charitable. Thank you. So now the Gemara says, what about the following case? I'll talk to you at outside first. This happened to Mark. I remember when it happened to Mark. You see, Mark ate chaylev. Then after he ate the chaylev, this particular chaylev, the Sanhedrin paskined, it's not chaylev. It's kosher. Now he had already been mafresh a carbon, but now it's not necessary. And then they said, no, it is chaylev. Do we say, since there's a time they said that it wasn't an aveira, and therefore the carbon wasn't necessary and was rejected, is it rejected now when they reversed their decision? Let's see it inside. What an interesting shot. I remember. Mark, you remember when that happened? By Rabbi Yirmiyah.
You remember, Rabbi?
Yeah, by Rabbi Yirmiyah. Achel chaylev, Mark ate chaylev, v'hikriv carbon, v'horu bezdin, and bezdin paskin shechaylev mutter, that the chaylev of that particular animal was mutter. So now his carbon becomes unnecessary. Then v'chazubem, then they said, no, it is chaylev. Mao. Mi avidichu, yolei avidichu. Is it rejected or not? Says the Gemara, this is the daddy of all rejections. See, when Chatzkel became a renegade, or he became an imbecile, Chatzkel was rejected, but the carbon wasn't rejected. But in this case, where they said that it's not a sin, the actual carbon became rejected because they said that this matter doesn't need the carbon. So says the Gemara, Amalei Saba, usually this is Eliyahu Navi. Ki pasach Reb Yochanan b'dichuyin, when Reb Yochanan talked about things that are rejected, Meha pasach, he starts with this example. My time. Hasam gavra itcha, the insane person, the renegade, the man is rejected. Carbon lo yitcha, the carbon wasn't rejected. Hacha, carbon nami yitcha. They're saying that what Mark did wasn't even a sin, and it doesn't even call for a carbon. So the carbon itself was rejected. Amar Shimon ben Azai, Mekublani mepi shiva mishnayim zakein. I have a tradition from 72 zakein. Why does it say the number? It should say, I remember at the time when Rabbi Eliezer was appointed Nasi, when Rabbi Gamliel was deposed temporarily, I heard from the Zakainim. Why does it say 72? Says the Gemara, he remembered that it was a unanimous decision. The Kulu b'chadash shitasa havekaimin. They all held the same thing. So he said that Ben Azai said that anything that is eaten is kosher shaloi lishma except for Pesach and Chatas. By adding that, he said that's by things that are eaten. But there is something that's not eaten, namely an oila, that's also pasul shaloi lishma. So he adds that an oila is also pasul shaloi lishma. L'haisa ben Azai ela ha'oila. So Amar Ravuna, my time of the Ben Azai. What's the reason of Ben Azai? So says the Gemara, you know how we know that, how Ben Azai knows that an oila is also pasul shaloi lishma. How does he know it? Because it says oilahu ishe reach nichayach laHashem. So it says oilahu to tell you that he lishma kasher. It's only kosher if it's done for the right designation. Shaloi lishma p'sula. So he says, but wait a second. Then an ashim should also be pasul shaloi lishma because it says ashim namik sibehu. So that we already said, no, the hu by Ashim is only by the Aktaris Emurim, by the smoking up of the sacrificial pieces, which is not Ma'akiv. There it's after the smoking up of the sacrificial portion. So the Gemara says, yeah, but by Oila that's also where it says hu. It says by Oila also after the smoking up. Says the Gemara, yeah, but by oil it says a second hu. Trei hu ksive. So the second hu comes to tell you there has to be shaloi lishma. Says the Gemara, don't try to pull that one on us. By Hashem it says hu also. Hershel will tell you, he'll bring up the psukim with the Atzkro. Yeah. Says the Gemara, Gabi Hashem nami trei hu ksive. It says hu twice also. Says the Gemara, you're right. The Gemara capitulates. It can't be from the pasuk because then it would have to be by Ashim also. That's not what's going on over here. Ela ben Azai bekal v'chaymer ma'isela. Ben Azai learns it out from a kal v'chaymer. Look, chatas shaloi lishma is pasul. Or ma chatas she'ena kolol. It's not burnt up totally on the mizbeach. Shchata shaloi lishma psula. If you shechta shaloi lishma, it's possible. An ayla, which is kula kol, that's why it's called an ayla. It goes up totally. Ayla, she kolol, it totally goes up. Like kol shechit. Surely it's possible. So Gemara says that's not a good kal v'chaymer, because maybe chatas needs to be lishma because it comes from kapara. Ma'ala chatas shekhem kaperas. So the Gemara says, no, it can't be the reason of kapara, because Pesach is pasul shaloi lishma, even though it's not mechaper. Pesach yechiach, it's pasul shaloi lishma, even though it's not mechaper. Yeah, but the Pesach is different. Mal Pesach shekein zman kavua. It has a fixed time, only one day a year. Chatas teifchiach. Chatas will disprove that's not the reason. Because chatas is not only on one day in a year. For Chazra, didn't we go around? The deficiency of one is not like the deficiency of the other. Chatas is not Kavua Zman. Pesach is not Mechaper. Hatzad HaShavah Shebem Shein Kachim. Ushchotin Shaloi Lishman possible. And if you shechlet Shaloi Lishman, it's possible. Afani Ovi Oila. She Kachim, it's Kachim. Ushchotin Shaloi Lishman Psula. Says the Gemara, big kasha. Ben Azai, you can't learn out from Pesach and Chatas. They have a Tzad HaShavah. Tzad HaShavah, that they both have a Tzad Chorus. Chatas comes for a sin of Chorus. And the Pesach, you don't eat it in the night of Pesach, you get Chorus. An oil doesn't have Chorus. Mala Tzad HaShavah Sheben Sheyesh Bem Tzad Chorus. Now, it's not really the same, because the Chatas comes for a sin of Chorus, and Pesach, if you don't eat it, it's Chorus. It's two different things. So Ben Azai, Tzad Chorus Lo Parach, he doesn't hold that's a percha. He doesn't hold they're the same thing. So the Gemara says, well, Oshim Nami Laisi. If you're going to learn it out, this Tzad HaShavah, so say also Oshim is Kachim, and it should be put Pasal Shalai Lishma. Says the Gemara, no. Oshim Parach Mala Tzad HaShavah Sheben Shekain Yeshnun B'tziba. Chatas is communal by all the Musafim during the Yom Tovim are Chatas. And Pesach, even though it's an individual carbon, but since it's offered by the whole community on Erev Pesach, it's considered communal. But an Oshim is not communal. The Iba Yisema, strike that. Tzad Koros Nami Parach. Ben Azai would hold of the Pircha of Tzad Koros, and that's why we can't learn out Oshim, because Oshim is not brought for a Koros. I said, then why is Oila Pasal Shalai Lishma? Or Ben Azai Gabra Gemirala. He has a tradition from his Rebbeim. It's Halach L'Moshe Sinai. If it's Halach L'Moshe Sinai, so then why does he quote Kal V'Chaimer? Well, the Kamer Ravuna Kal V'Chaimer. He only said that to test the Talmidim. He wanted to hear the give and take in the base of Medrash, and they would show that the Kal V'Chaimer is not valid. Lo Yamra El L'Chadid Ba Talmidav. He only did it to sharpen the Talmidim. Now I have to say that I never do this, and I do it with great hesitancy. But I think we're going to only learn one blot tonight, because I think that I don't want to hurt my voice. I'm already speaking now over 3 hours straight, and I don't think it's smart. So tomorrow we'll learn this plot Yud Gimel and Yud Dalet at 8 o'clock. And now we're just going to do the Mishnah Yomis.